But ultimately, it goes back to determination. So long as I continue this determined mindset that I have, there's no reason as to why I won't achieve that.
Yeah, you know, it's your boy. Yeah. Alright, listen. I started out on the pavement. You thought I wouldn't make it. Wondering why you ain't did it? Cause you only working that day shift. Yeah, success is contagious.
And welcome back to another episode of the P.O.T.N podcast, a podcast dedicated to war people, motivating all of you listeners to go that one step further in your lives. I am your host, Takura, and today I am joined by a very good friend of mine, one of the most enthusiastic, innovative, and passionate people I've ever met during my first degree at Hertfordshire. I'd like to introduce you all to Jourdan. I'd also like to add that Jourdan is an avid traveler and he loves to see the world. Jourdan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for your kind intro, man. I couldn't have said it better myself.
No worries, bro.
Yeah, man. You good?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
Yeah, man. Just, still working from home, COVID and all that. Getting a bit bored of this kind of monotonous lifestyle now of always working from home. I like to have like distance. I like to have my work life and my home life separate.
Yeah.
And whilst I'm working from home, you can't really have that distance between the two. So I'm getting a bit bored of it now. But I guess I'm saving money on not having to commute. So there's a bonus there. So yeah.
Oh yes, yeah. So with all things, with the COVID, as tragic as the situation is right now, and I get where you're coming from with it's the same routine every day, and you're inside the house, you're not really outside that as much.
Yeah.
Obviously there's things we're missing out on now, but there's also benefits like you've found new ways of working more productively from home. You've saved money. And I guess it's given all of us a greater appreciation of what we have as well. So
yeah, definitely, because I remember when this when everyone was getting all excited about a lot of people who were put on furlough getting excited about working from essentially being at home doing nothing for a while, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's all well and good, but the real challenge will be when people go back to work and companies are no longer financially viable, so they have to make redundancies. That's when there'll be the real hard hit. And I've been fortunate in that now both my parents have gone back to work. Touch wood, they've both got their jobs still, and so at least now during the day I'm able to not get as distracted easily, because my room's quite small, right, and my computer desk, because right now I have dual monitors and my for work, and my computer desk in my room can't accommodate 2 monitors, so I've had to basically put my work computer downstairs in the dining room on the dining table. But the problem is, obviously, before, when everyone was at home, my parents would come downstairs, watch TV. And, it was easy to get distracted, and it was affecting my productivity. Luckily, my managers never clocked. But yeah, it's just, and even myself, like, I'll just get distracted and just go upstairs and try and like play on my PlayStation for a bit. But now I'm here alone for the most part of the day. It's easier to get work done, but there's pros and cons of that, innit? Because I'm somebody who's quite an extrovert. I don't really like to spend loads amount of time home by myself, so I just go out, chill with Taz, do stuff like that as well. So yeah,
exactly, man. I get where you're coming from, and it has its benefits and its challenges as well. But at least like you said, you've got the majority of the house to yourself, like during the day, and obviously in the evenings you won't be working anymore, and that's when everyone comes back, and it's a really good atmosphere to be in, because obviously you've worked hard all day, and now you can chill and relax in the presence of family and all that. So there's always a benefit as well. So
yeah, defo, man, defo.
And obviously, I think as well, like with the with things, obviously some things are closed, some things are opening up slowly. It's given us an opportunity, and you as well, to find new hobbies and activities you can get involved with Taz and the family as well.
A million. I even look back at it now. Like, so I went. I left. So around, I don't know, like beginning of March time, there were some people who had like pre-existing health conditions who our work allowed to basically work from home before like you officially were told to work from home. And I was one of those people because my dad had a kidney transplant a few years back, so his immune system is relatively weak, right? So I went back home early, and it's just so it's funny comparing how when we went into like an official lockdown, how people's mindsets changed in regards to now because the government has suddenly said it's serious, that people are suddenly like not like they're isolating essentially. And it was weird because it was like people weren't really leaving their houses. The roads were really quiet. Like you could literally go down like Oxford Street and it was dead. Like I cycled through the city, right? I go for bike rides a lot, and the city was dead. Comparing it to now, I literally I can't think of a time in the whole of my life where I've spent 4 days in my house without going out, even something dumb like going to the corner shop to get, I don't know, a drink or something. I can't remember doing that ever in my whole life, but I've done that in that first period, and it just feels weird how that was then to how things were a few months back, where it was like, okay, they eased lockdown a bit and people were getting excited. Remember Easter time when there were people going to the beaches and whatnot? I mean, yeah. I mean, I wasn't one of those people. I didn't do that, but the roads themselves were much busier, and it's just weird to think that it seems so long ago that I didn't leave the house for those 4 days. Yet actually, it's all within this same COVID period that me, myself at least, haven't come to the end yet, because as I said, I'm still working from home. So yeah, it's weird. It's funny.
Yes, it is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
With everything that's going on, and it will be interesting to see what happens going forward. But that is something we wait to see.
Yeah.
So we'll jump straight into it, bro. And I'm pretty sure that the listeners, obviously, from your fantastic introduction and in-depth intro as well, can you tell our listeners, a little more about yourself? Tell us about where you're from, what you're currently up to, and what you get up to in your free time.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, as Takura said before, my name is Jourdan. I'm currently working for an aerospace company called P.O.T.N. Just turned 26 2 days ago, unfortunately. Wrong side of 25 now. Yeah. Me and Takura shared our bachelor's together, our bachelor's degree together at Hertfordshire. I continued to do a master's there as well. I worked at Boeing now for 2 years. It's been a relatively good journey. Looking for new challenges now within my life. In work terms, rather, I should say. In my spare time, I like to do a lot of things that evolve around just fitness in general. Like I've done the London Triathlon 5 or 6 times. I've done loads of bike rides, whether it be for charity or just sportives in general. Like I've done there's this one called Ride London. I've done a few times, which is an 100-mile bike ride through London, through the Surrey Hills and whatnot. And I was signed up to do the IronMan UK in Bolton this year. However, COVID cancelled that, which is a bit frustrating because I'd been training for months. So mentally, it was a step back, because it was like I've been deferred until next year now, so I've got to start my whole training again. For those of you who don't know, for the listeners who don't know, an Ironman is essentially it's an endurance event. So you start off with a 2.3 mile swim, followed by an 112-mile bike ride. Then to complete it, you do a marathon basically, so 26.2 miles run, and that's all within a set period of time. So for the Ironman itself, you're limited to 17 hours to complete everything, and then each individual event also has its own time limit, and they take no prisoners in terms of if you're second over, that's it, you're out. So yeah, that's what I'm focusing on now. But yeah.
Oh wow, man. That's an amazing introduction as well. And it's fantastic to hear all of the things you're doing in terms of building up fitness and health is wealth as well. So, you're
Yeah,
taking
100%.
and you're investing quite a lot into that, which is amazing. I find that amazing that you've got in the triathlon. If we focus on the Ironman event for a bit, but like how you've got the swim, you've got the cycle, and then you've got the run. Obviously
Mm.
three different events, and obviously they're all time stringent, so you need to do each um in a set period of time, and that's quite intense. And obviously you were ready for that, so I don't know if I could ever do that.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I had that same mindset, and it was funny because I've been doing the London Triathlon for about 5 years, as I said, and it was getting a bit monotonous. I was just kind of not really motivated to do it anymore, and it wasn't particularly cheap to enter as well. And obviously, I was doing it whilst I was still a student. So back then, well, even now, £100 is a lot of money when you're working part time. When I was a student, and
Mm.
yeah, I just got a bit bored of it, so I took a year out, and then my eldest sister's husband done Ironman in 2019, and he's somebody who's really fit. He's done the London Marathon, he's done other marathons, he's done many half marathons, he's done like an endurance run that was like, I don't know, like 50 miles or something crazy like that. So he does look, and he done the Ironman, and he said it was ridiculously hard, but I'm more experienced in triathlons than him, and so I know if he can do it, not to say I'm better than him, but I know I can compare myself to him to a point that I know that if he can do it, I'm capable of doing it too. So I thought, that's a good challenge. You can't really get much harder than that. Yeah, when he first when I first signed up for it, you think to yourself, like, there's no way I can do that. Like, I've never done a 2.3 mile swim. I hate running, and I've definitely never done a marathon. I've never really ran more than 10K, because that's the maximum I've ever had to run for any of the triathlons I've done before. And the marathon is 4 times that. Cycling, I've done 100 miles, but you might think, 112 miles, that's not really much difference. But those extra 12 miles, depending on the gradient that you're cycling, can be an extra hour in it. And I know how I feel after doing a 100-mile bike ride. I feel dead. So to then have to try and run a marathon is crazy, innit? But so it's like, yeah, you build yourself up. It's like, the days after, because what I currently do, my work pattern is I do 4 10-hour days. So I work 10 hours Monday, Tuesday. I get Wednesday off, a nice break to the week. And then I work Thursday and Friday. And I also kept my old Saturday job as well. So I was essentially working, doing 50 hours, but over 5 days. And so it was difficult, because it's like I'd leave work, I don't know, let's say 8 p.m. in Welwyn Garden City. I'd go to the gym, be there for 2 hours, whether it's, doing a long run followed by, some weights, or on the spin bike for an hour or whatnot. And, and then obviously driving home, eating, and just going straight to bed and doing that again the next day. And especially when it's like, winter, it's cold, when you get home, everyone's asleep, and it's just, it takes a toll on you, not only physically, but mentally as well. So to then obviously be hit by COVID, and, obviously that got put on pause. And it was a case of like, it's like, well, the main reason why I think it got cancelled, putting aside obviously the fact that you can't really socially distance doing such an event, is because of all the gyms closed. So people could no longer train. People can't, no one has a lake in their back garden, so you can't really go swim. I mean, obviously, yeah, it was an annoyance, but obviously, putting it aside in comparison to, how other people were affected by COVID in regards to, losing relatives, losing jobs, it's insignificant. It just means that, it gives me, I look at it in a sense that I have a second opportunity to train better, and just, just do better than what I would have done last year had I continued training. That's how I look at it, because I think there were times where, let's say I'd done the event, and I looked back and I thought to myself, like, am I happy with my time? Let's just say the answer was no. And I'd look back and I'd think, well, like, did I train as hard as I could have? Chances are there's been the odd day where perhaps I skipped training when I shouldn't have. So I'd look at that and think, well, that's the reason as to why I didn't do what I've done. So I feel like I have that mindset going into it this year when I start training in a few months' time, to just not do that, basically. So yeah, but yeah, I just like to challenge myself. Innit? I don't consider myself a hugely academic person. You know, I'm smart. I'm not intelligent. So I feel like if I like to challenge myself, I prefer to not use my brain if I don't have to. So I like to do like physical exercises and stuff like that. So yeah.
It's interesting you say that, because obviously you're approaching it from a from a humility point of view as well, because obviously you've you want to get better with, like, obviously in your physical training and your fitness and all that, and at the same time, you're not disregarding yourself from continuing education and always like learning new things and becoming better. But obviously, when it's time to work on fitness, you work on fitness. When it's time to learn, you do the learning as well. So which is really, really good as well, because you're keeping those separate. I think also going back to what you said, like when you work for Boeing, man, like Boeing is created the aircraft I love and adore. You know, the 777. I don't know how long it's going to keep flying. Hopefully, for the next 10, 15 years, or beyond that. But we
even longer, man. They're releasing the 777X, aren't they? So that's a new
variant, yeah.
A new subdivision of the 777 aircraft. So
yeah, so it's an inspiring thing, obviously, looking at it, because obviously you work for them, but you look at looking at the aircraft side. So it's I know this was our passion. That's why we ended up choosing aerospace, because we were really, really focused on aircraft, and from my side, becoming a pilot. Your side, working on the engineering and the performance aspects of the aircraft. So it was quite motivational as well. And I think also in there you mentioned, like, your sister's husband, as he was an inspirer, like, as I'd say, for you, putting yourself forward for the Ironman challenge, because you saw what he did, that inspired and motivated you, right? And then obviously you're now going into it, and you're gonna do it. Obviously, unfortunately, COVID has delayed it, but I think it's also giving you extra time to prepare. So it's going to be very interesting to see you compete in it next year as well. So wishing you all the best in that, and
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and we look forward to seeing you in the pictures. Hopefully, I could also be there to support you on the day. Hopefully, if all all things being equal, we hope for that. So, moving on to the next question, bro. I think you've alluded to this already, but obviously, just to be sure, and what would you say your passion is, right? And what do you love most about it?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, originally, obviously, we both done aerospace engineering. My passion for planes, if you was to ask me for a specific moment that made me love them, I wouldn't be able to tell you, if I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what it is. There's no one, in my family, in my circle, like when I was younger, who was working in the field or any of that. It was nothing like that. I think, just thinking of it now, I mean, you might not know this, but there was this show back on ITV years ago. It was called Airline, or was it called Airport? It was essentially a show around like the life of it was called Airline, around the life of staff who worked for airlines, right? And there was this the airline called TUI. Yeah, so before they were called TUI, they were called Thompson. But before they were called Thompson, they were called Britannia Airways. So the show was focused on them, and then also EasyJet as well. And I just loved it. I just loved planes. Obviously, I associated planes with going on holiday. And obviously, when I was going on holiday with my family, it's a great time. And I think it was just something that I enjoyed, and I knew there was money there. So I think that I just gravitated towards that. I've always known from a young age, I always knew that I wanted to do something involving planes, but I just wasn't sure exactly what it was. I was fortunate, if you ask any of my friends from secondary school, I was one of the people that if you ask me what I want to be, initially I'd always say I wanted to become a pilot. I wanted to be a pilot, a commercial pilot. But when I actually looked into it and I saw the financial side of it, if you obviously there are different routes you can go down, but I just wanted to get it over and dusted with, and it was like if you want to get like a goods license, you're looking at like I don't know, like 60 plus K, even more than that, and that just put me out of it. So I thought the next best thing to still be involved around planes was to just be an engineer. And I was never particularly smart. I just worked towards it, man, and that's where it stemmed from, really.
Awesome, man. And I think I feel like I may have limited you in terms of you've obviously you've presented one which was aerospace, and I think I agree with you. Growing up around planes and seeing them, it gave you this adrenaline. Because I think for me, when back in Zim, whenever when we go to the airport to see off a relative or something who is leaving the country, when the plane's about to take off and the engines go full throttle, and I'd get goosebumps, and obviously there'll be other kids around, and they're just screaming with joy because obviously the plane is going. So
Yeah.
there's that as well.
Yeah, I think it's just the association to like happy moments. Like for example, but I had a love for many vehicles back then. I used to love weird stuff. Like I used to love buses.
Yeah.
I used to love. I think even more than planes, I used to love trains back then, man. I'd literally like just watch video. And this is really weird, isn't it? But I don't care. I'm just gonna say it. Like I'd watch like videos on like YouTube of trains just going past stations at like high speed, innit? Don't ask me why. I don't know why I got like satisfaction out of it, but I just enjoyed it. And I think it also stemmed for the same reasons in that my older sister lives in Devon, right? So when I was younger, when we'd go to her house, we'd get a train from Paddington to there. And obviously I associate that with being a happy memory. And I think it was just subconsciously, I think it was just that. It was like the love of planes was just stemmed from and trains just stemmed from an association with like happy moments in my life. And then from there I just kind of and then I feel like my I wouldn't say I was nurtured, but it's just this inherent ability, not ability, but this drive that I had to just always want to understand how things worked.
Yeah.
I feel like that the two of them complemented each other, because that then set me to want to just learn more. And as I said, obviously I wanted to become a pilot at first, but that wasn't feasible. So the next best thing was to become an engineer, and possibly better long term, because obviously as an engineer, your skills are more transferable than a pilot. And obviously, being a pilot, particularly within the UK, is very, very competitive. So yeah.
Absolutely, bro. And
a question that
go on.
Yeah, sorry. No, I was gonna say a question that I always look at as well is, like how much longer are pilots gonna actually be around for? Planes can fly themselves. I'm sure I read an article this week where Airbus were looking at, they actually tested a plane that could taxi. I think it taxied, took off, and landed, and re-taxied by itself. Obviously, it's all well and good planes can do that, but how many people are actually going to get in a plane where there's no pilot? But then I'm sure people said that about trains, and look at the DLR now, for example. So,
Yeah, it operates by itself. I was actually fascinated, looking at the DLR, because I only ever used it once, and that was last year when I went to the Excel Center in London.
Excel, yeah.
So I was like, there's only like there's a conductor who's coming and checking people's tickets and scanning cards.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, okay. But I think maybe aerospace may be a long way. Obviously, I'm not going to this is in my opinion. I think that's from my perspective. I think a lot of people would prefer a plane being able to do all these things, but a pilot there to take over in case something goes wrong. And at some point in the future, we don't know, man. I hope it gets to a point where even though like planes can fly from themselves, right? Pilots can find a new purpose in flying, if that makes sense. So they could be managing. Well, essentially, I think they do manage the system now, as they fly. So they'll be managing a more efficient system at that point.
Yeah, but I feel like they'll become more of a redundancy measure as opposed to being the prime operative. That's how I think. Because most air disasters are still they're down to human error, right? Most of them.
Yeah.
So obviously, I mean, I don't know if that's actually in the commercial space, but I know definitely there are still a lot of crashes in like that you get amongst like caravan-sized aircraft, smaller aircraft, and obviously none of them really have sophisticated what do you call it?
In-flight systems.
None of them really have. Yeah, they don't have sophisticated in-flight systems, autopilot. That's what I was looking for, autopilot. They don't really have sophisticated autopilot systems. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, man. I just have to wait and see what the future holds.
Absolutely, bro. And what would you say? Are there any other passions you'd say you have that you'd like the listeners to know about?
Saying that, funnily enough, in more recent years, I've actually grown a strong passion rather for cars, man. Like, yeah, I'd almost say it's overtaken my passion for planes, funnily enough, which is weird. But I feel like as I've become a driver, I just like fast cars, man. If I'm being honest, I know what it is. I think I know where it stems from. I feel like it's the rise of YouTube channels. Like, I don't know if you've heard of a channel called Carwow.
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, they're a good channel. They release videos quite a lot. So there's the rise of a channel called Carwow, and then obviously going out with Taz. A lot of Asian weddings, they love their supercar rentals, right? So I guess as I've been to weddings when I've been with Taz, I've seen them there, and like being a passenger in them, it's just that the experience, bro. That acceleration is, I'll never forget. I'll never forget the feeling. I remember I was in a Lamborghini Urus, and the window was open. It was accelerating, and the combination of the G-force and just the airflow within the cabin that was coming into the cabin from the outside meant that I was being pulled back into my seat, but my glasses were falling off. But because of the G-force, I was struggling to keep my glasses on my face. It was crazy. It was a crazy experience. I love it. I loved it.
Awesome, man. And
I loved it.
I think I'll probably want to fall into, hopefully get a chance to experience that as well, and also witness what you're talking about, how it's the way it's designed, even the G forces, the speed and the airflow, like it hits you all at once, but it's designed to keep you in place, although it's not designed to keep everything, like glasses or I don't know about earrings, but they're keeping those things intact. May be questionable, but I get where you're coming from, and those are two very, very interesting passions. I think obviously the vehicles as well. So you'd say passion is around vehicles. So that's very, very interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
And so we'll move on to the next question. Obviously, this is a personalized question. It may pull at the heartstrings a bit, bro. But who would you say has inspired you and made a positive impact on you? And obviously, it's not limited to one person. It can be as many people as you can think of.
Yeah, sure. So it's a funny one, really, because I'm somebody who I've never really had like one sole person who's inspired me. I very much have different people who have inspired me in different ways. So for example, like my one of my cousins right now, I'd say he's definitely somebody who's inspired me quite strongly of late. He's a young person. He's 30, just turned 33. So he's relatively young. But he went to Brunel to study computer science. Never completed it. Turned out he had dyslexia, so he struggled. To just with the workload, I think. But he got a job, thankfully, and worked his way up. And now, he's at a really good place, both financially. He recently secured a job that pays, 6 figures, which is a crazy thing. It's a goal. you know, you feel like they're in like a different league almost, you know. So yeah, I'd say in terms of like career wise, he's definitely someone who I look at in regards to inspiration. In regards to that, I'd say in regards to life in general, there's many people, man. I think, you know, my mom is somebody who's a very strong woman. She's somebody who, you know, in terms of just somebody who I wish I could be like, just overall as a person, it's definitely my mom, because, you know, I'm somebody who she doesn't let mental challenges affect her. She's someone who's dyslexic herself, but she's never let that stop her. Even physically, she works in the fitness industry, you know, and she'll just, the determination that she has is just something that is inspirational. In regards to role models, my uncle, he's been, in terms of just, you know, teaching me what's right from wrong, you know, just being, I guess I'm gonna say, you know, he's been a good father figure, and that's not to say that, you know, like my dad's been present in my life. We've never really had the closest of relationships, but he's just always been there for me, innit? You know, we've been cool. You know, he took me to my first football match. You know, we got on really well and whatnot. Yeah, I just think it's a culmination of things, man. There's not like a specific person who I look at. People inspire me in different ways, and, you know, I try to, you know, adopt, you know, their characteristics and what's worked for them, and better what they've done. And that's not to say, you know, I'm using them, because I'm not like, you know, I'm not going to sit down with them. And let's say, for example, you and your podcast, right? Let's say I sat down with you and was like, oh, like, hey, Takura, like, how do you go around doing, you know, a successful podcast? And let's just say you spoke with me, and, you know, you taught me and you showed me like this is what to do, this is what not to do. And, you know, I could use what you told me to go and do, not necessarily a podcast myself, but let's just say I wanted to create YouTube videos or something, right? And I'd just, obviously then you'd be somebody who would have inspired me in that sense. So it's just like I feed off of people, but I don't want you to think I'm saying it in a bad way, as in like use people. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say is in like, I'm like a sponge trying to absorb just positive information that can help me as a person. But, you know, I'm very conscious of letting people around me who have inspired me, letting them know that, you know, I'm here because of you. Do you know what I'm saying? You've helped me get here. You've helped me achieve what I want to achieve. You know, I'm aware, for example, you know, many people whilst they're, you know, at uni have struggles, whether it be, you know, with family life, you know, financially and whatnot. You know, my family is not particularly rich. We're not poor, but we're not rich. But you know, I've had a good relationship with my family, and that I've had that support there, you know. So I've been fortunate in that sense as well. But yeah, as I said, I just don't have a set person who's inspired me. It's just a group of people. Even like, for example, in the fitness, we're talking about the triathlons. My sister's husband, he's inspirational. He was never always, you know, in good shape that he was now. He was overweight at one point in his life, but now he's doing 60-mile runs, like, and I find that inspiring. It's like, you know, I never want to limit myself in terms of what I can do. You know, if someone had told me 5 years ago, oh, I know someone done a 60-mile run, I'd be like, what are you talking about? That's not possible. There's no way your knees can do that for 60 miles. Your legs will break. But then I thought to myself, like, and this is the mindset that I try to apply to life in general, right? Because let's say you're going for a run and you're tired, right? So you decide to stop. You have to, once you've stopped, you look at it and let's say you analyze your performance. You think to yourself, well, hold on, actually, I didn't stop because I was tired. I stopped because I gave up. Because ultimately, the only point at which you're tired is when your legs can no longer move your body forward, and that hadn't happened. Like, But there are videos of circumstances where that does happen. You can YouTube it, videos of runners literally legs giving up on them as they're running. You can see it. And I know I wasn't there, so I know what stopped me was just my mental, my attitude towards it. So I just try to look at life like that, man. Always trying to better myself. And I use people around me who are in better positions as just inspirations, and just try to match them, and if possible improve what they've done, but whilst paying homage. Yeah, I feel like I've digressed there a bit, but yeah, that's what I'm trying to get across.
No, that's fine, bro. I don't think you've digressed. I think first, obviously, shout out to all of your inspirations, your mum, your cousin, and your uncle. And also your brother-in-law as well, for motivating you, obviously in different aspects, work ethic, enthusiasm and drive, determination, and fitness as well. It's important, we have those people, and we all have inspirations in different fields. And I get what you're saying. You're open and you're eager to learn. So you want to learn from as many people as you want to, because you want to better yourself, and that's continuous improvement and self-improvement as well. And you're not keeping it to yourself because you want to give that information back.
100%.
So and it's that generational wealth that you want to pass down. So even in context to the podcasting thing, I'm happy if you ever choose to go into it. I can show you the ropes from what I've picked up, because I feel like me and you are in a similar place where if you don't know something, we go out and we learn it.
Want to learn,
and then once we learn it, we don't want to keep it to ourselves. Go on.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, it's crazy because I even look at, like, and I feel like part of the reason as to why I try to better myself is also because when I do eventually have children, I want to put them in as good as a position as possible, because I just look at, for example, let's say back when my parents were my age, right? It was much easier to get a house, to get a job. Not only were jobs easy to come by, obviously most people work because they're trying to support their lifestyle, and ultimately your lifestyle is essentially working towards having a roof over your head. That's people's number one priority, right? And back then you could get a house for less, so you could work at, no disrespect, you could work at Tesco's, and as you could afford a house in central London, right? Nowadays, unless you've got some sort of inheritance, or you've been fortunate that your parents set up a savings account and they've been putting money in it from the day you was one, it's practically, in central London, it's practically impossible to get a 3-bedroom house, man, unless you're, for the average person at least anyways. And I consider myself, I'm an average person in terms of like my upbringing and whatnot. So I think I just want to make sure that my children are in a position whereby they don't have to struggle. And I don't want that to come across like I'm trying to say that my parents have left me in a position where I'm struggling, because they haven't. But I do feel like times are getting harder. If I'm in a place now whereby I think I'm doing relatively well for my age, and even it's a struggle for me, imagine what it's going to be like for when we have children. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I completely get it, and I feel like this is what I was telling you offline. Like, I feel like this podcast episode already, it feels like, and I think this is a good reason why, and like the universe and God have brought us together as friends, because a lot of these the situations and scenarios you're talking about, I feel the exact same way, because obviously things are getting harder. We're adapting to the times. We're finding new ways and new activities to take on and better ourselves, and also create new ways of or streams of income. So at least when we have kids, we're in a position to support them, to show them the world, to educate them,
and not be slaves to the system. You don't want to have to feel like you have to be working 60 hours a week to support a lifestyle that doesn't that isn't particularly luxurious, because we don't deserve that. So I'm saying we've put in blood, sweat and tears to get to where we are, You know, degrees aren't hard. Sorry, degrees aren't easy, and engineering degrees definitely aren't easy.
Exactly, bro.
So, you know, it's a crazy one, man. But, you know, we continue fighting, we continue moving towards betterment.
Exactly, bro. And we will get there because we believe we'll get there, and also we've got the tenacity and the eagerness to learn and pick up new things, which will make us multi. I like to call it multi-dimensional. So we're able to take on different. We're able to do different things, and if situation changes, your ability to like to take on a new skill or learn something new, right? It'll be far much easier.
To just be adaptive.
Yeah, and it'll be a smooth transition, whereas it would normally take you a while. But yes, I agree with you 100%, man. So
Yeah.
as you mentioned, with you mentioned a lot of experiences, that you relate to happy memories and all that. Could you tell our listeners what experience you've gone through, right, that has shown you that positivity still exists in the world and in people?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Take your time as well.
I would say it's difficult off the top of the head because I feel like we live in a society whereby we're not meant to think like that, if that makes sense. Because if you switch on the news, you're constantly fed negativity. So whilst there is goodness going on in the world, you're constantly fed negativity. I would say the last piece of information I had that reminded me that there's still goodness in the world, I'd have to say it would be. I'm going to use this as an example, but it's not.
Any you can think of, bro. Obviously, it's from your perspective as well.
Yeah.
So don't be too critical of yourself. It's not an interview. Pun intended.
Yeah, no. Do you know what it is? It's just obviously I'm trying to look at things from a perspective of obviously globally in terms of the last good bit of information that I heard of globally that was a big positive. I mean, the thing is, the reason why it's difficult because I've never ever been one of those people who's ever like lost faith in humanity. Do you see what I'm saying? So I've always had this mindset that like humanity is positive. So why would I ever feel like otherwise? I know stuff. I just mentioned to you about the whole new stuff. I know that it's designed for you to think that the world is negative, but it's not. I think if actually, no, I'll tell a lie. The last bit of positive, information that I had that's kind of restored faith in the world. Well, I guess it would be as a result of something negative. So I guess it would be like a silver lining, shall we say? I guess there's obviously the whole the movement that happened in America in regards to BLM, Black Lives Matter, I should say. I'd say that's in terms of just how people have united, both black and white, have united as a result of that. I would say that's kind of just restored faith in that. Whilst there is a lot of segregation, there also is a lot of people who are fighting for unity, and it's getting us somewhere. That's what I would say. I feel like there's been progress. I think that's the best. I think that's what's been a real positive.
Yeah. No, I get you. I think you're referring to the George Floyd, Breonna Taylor.
George Floyd,
those unfortunate deaths. Obviously, they've brought people together, and obviously people were protesting and still are protesting on a united front for equality and justice. And like you said, it's really restored faith in humanity because it's been a global movement as well. Because we've had protests in the UK, protests in Japan, all over the world, man, and it's really, really inspiring. I was going to ask you. I think you may have had another example, maybe a personal one that you wanted to share. Or
Oh, I see. Sorry, I feel like I've blabbled a lot with that question.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
On a personal level, not really. I'll go back to the reason I said before, and it's because like I've never ever been somebody I've never looked at humanity and thought, oh, what is the world coming to? Because I feel like I've always had people around me who have been good. So on a personal level, I've always had like that a strong foundation of good, solid, strong people who are just nice. If you get what I mean. But yeah, sorry, I can't come up with a better answer for that. But yeah, I genuinely can't.
It's fine, man. We've got the example of BLM, like, so that one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess yeah, you know how people have come together as a result of COVID, and you know people. But that's not really answering your question. So yeah, not really, man. Sorry about that. I haven't really got an answer for that.
Okay, so don't worry about that question. We'll move on to the next one because I think this one will test your engineering prowess. You know.
Oh gosh.
Can you tell our listeners how you've overcome challenges you faced?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Just, I mean, generally speaking, the way in which I challenge issues that I have regarding engineering is the same challenge that I use. So it's the same methodology that I use with life itself, man. Never be, and the first of which, and I was saying this to you before we even started, Takura, one of my best aspects as a person is my willingness to continue learning. Never ever feel like that you're a know-it-all, because if you think you're a know-it-all, you never are. You're never the best at anything, right? So if you're somebody who thinks you're a know-it-all, that means you're content with the knowledge you have, and long term, the only person who you're hindering by having that mindset is yourself, because you're no longer willing to learn, right? So I would say just always be open to just willing to learn. That's number one. If you don't know, don't be afraid to ask. I know it's difficult, you know. There's a strong mindset amongst many people, and I've experienced it even within our own friendship group, bro. There's people who when someone doesn't know something, they have a tendency to almost mock you in it, like how do you not know that kind of thing. But it's like never, like as you just said, you know, knowledge is wealth, innit? Never be ashamed or afraid to hold your hand up and say I don't know, innit? Like that's how I would say. And also just having determination, bro. That's very important, very very important, innit? Like the only thing that separates those who are successful in life to those who aren't, in my opinion, is just having the determination. It doesn't matter what you value success has been. It doesn't have to be becoming a millionaire. It could be, you know, just being happy or having a house. You know, people define success and happiness differently, right? But I would just say the number one thing that is unified amongst all of that is determination. You know, and I say I'm not the smartest. I'm not the most intelligent person. I never claimed to be. You know, I never done the best in college. But believe me, I didn't do the best at all. I've technically failed college twice. You know, I struggled at times throughout my university degree. I struggled academically even before college and university. Yet I was determined, didn't I didn't want to give up. And, you know, I think I do strongly feel like my strong level of determination and just the smartness that I have to be resourceful with what I have is, I think, what's enabled me to just kind of, you know, just excel in life and just, you know, be you know, just all around good. Like, you know, I'm not somebody who has to float my boat, but I would say, like, you know, I was very fortunate in that I practically secured a job before I finished my degree, and I genuinely think the reason behind that was just that I just had determination. Innit? For every one job I got rejected from, I'd apply for 3 more. That was my motto back then, innit? And I feel like, you know, that's paid dividends in the end. So I would say I would say putting engineering aside, I know you asked me in regards to engineering, but I would say what's worked for me and what will work for everyone else in any avenue that you take in life is to just never be afraid to ask for others, and always try to know more and just better your knowledge of things, and just never give up. Just stay determined. That's my advice, man, for life, literally.
Absolutely, bro. And I agree. On that, on what you said. It's also about having the courage when you don't know anything to raise your hand and want to and want to learn. That eagerness to learn as well.
Yeah,
You having that open mind. You learn new things. You take on new skills.
yeah,
And you're adaptive as well. So
exactly.
in addition to that, like the determination, man, like it's there's fine margins between crossing the finishing line and falling
I'm
short.
failing.
It's
Yeah,
it's there'll be times where things get tough, but it's about keeping that momentum going and ticking over, which actually it leads perfectly into the next question I have to ask you. And in your opinion, right, what do you think is the most valuable thing about failure?
that's a great question. The most valuable thing about failure is knowing to not what do in the future, to what not do, rather, I should say. Because ultimately, if you look at if you look at success as a pyramid, right? And let's say when you start off when you're young or whatnot, you're at the bottom of the pyramid, right? And you try something, it doesn't work. Let's just try to make it simplistic. Let's just say there's you have a scenario, like a red pill, blue pill kind of scenario, right? Where you have two options, and you choose one, and it's the wrong one, but it doesn't matter because now you've chosen the wrong one. You know what's the right one, and that's enabled you to move up to the next level towards getting to the top of the pyramid. That's how I look at it. Don't look at failure as being a negative thing, because it's not, because you're nurturing yourself and you're making yourself wiser in knowing what not to do. But the simple fact that you know what not to do means that just by probability alone, success will come. That's how I look at it. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I agree, man. And it's feedback as well, because you now know
Yeah.
what not to venture into, because you've had that experience. You've actually had the courage to do something, learn learn that it's not the best way, and you should find another way of doing it. But that's progress in itself, because you're growing
Well, yeah.
from that moment.
And then also linking between this question and the question before, like it's also important in terms of when you're determining, like you're looking at how you can become successful as a person, and how you can learn from failure. Another thing to also be adherent of is not being afraid to admit when you're wrong, and don't let pride get in the way of just saying, you know what, I'm wrong in it. Like you could say to me, I could say to you, 1+1 is 3. Obviously, I know it's 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you could say to me, 1+1 is 2. Obviously, I'm being very like simplistic, but I could be so up my own arse per to say and think I'm right so much that I'm not willing to accept that 1+1 is 2.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though in my mind, I know actually perhaps I'm not actually right, but I will never admit to that. That mindset is very, very self-sabotaging as well, and will just lead you down a path of failure.
Exactly, and I think I remember seeing somewhere, like, to add on to what you said, like the people who tend to progress a lot quicker than others are those who can admit that they were wrong and take ownership for that.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
once you take when you take ownership, you're now taking control of that situation, and from your
exactly.
perspective, you're going to improve. Whereas for people who deny, it's always going to be a constant battle of them going in a continuous loop, and they're never going to break past that, because
fighting against themselves, and it all goes back to just having this willingness to learn.
Yeah.
Part of willing to learn is also having to know when you're wrong, and as I said, when someone knows more than you shouldn't be trying to fight that. You should be trying to feed off of that and better yourself as a person.
Exactly. You learn, you grow, and you become better. That's the way to go about it. So, on that note, bro, I think we may have discussed this at the beginning, but like, what would you say excites you about the future going forward?
What, on a personal level, or like just a society?
I think so from a personal level, society, technology, anything, bro. Like, this question, go crazy.
Yeah, sure. So I'd say on a personal level, obviously I use right now. I'm very career focused, right? No, not just career focused. I'm focused on what having a successful career can enable me to do, and then so by that I mean, like, obviously having a good career, generally having a good income is relative to that, right? Having a good income enables you to have a nice house. I'm looking forward to having my own house. Having a nice income, enables you to have a nice car. And I don't want it to say I have a nice car because I'm this materialistic person. I'm not. Obviously, as you talked about before, I'm somebody who has a strong passion for vehicles. Enables me to travel, just experience life more. So I think I'm just looking forward to reaping the benefits of the work I'm putting in now, what it will enable me to do. I'm looking forward to eventually getting to that point where, I've got a really good paying job. I'm looking forward to that. And on a societal level, I think the thing I'm most interested in seeing is how technology advances, because I feel like, I look at, like, I had this conversation recently with someone. I look at my phone right now, right, and I look and I think to myself, okay, a new iPhone is going to be announced next week or whatnot, or the next 2 weeks, and I think to myself, okay, how can they improve the phone? They can make the camera better. They can increase the resolution of the screen. Okay, but like, that's not innovative, is it? That's not revolutionary. What is the next revolutionary step that we're going to see in technology? Let's not forget, 15 years ago, iPhones didn't exist. It was the best phone you had was a Nokia N95. Like, but now you've got an iPhone 11 that has a mad camera. The processing power is greater than, I don't know, like a PlayStation 2 or whatever. Yeah, it's like a 20th of the size. So I feel like we're at a point whereby with mobile phones, we've kind of plateaued. Like, I don't see where improvement can go. I know people talk about augmented reality being the next step, and to be honest with you, I haven't really looked a great deal into it, but it'd be interesting to see what they can do with that. And then there's obviously artificial intelligence. There's ethical issues in regards to that, and I also I'm really interested in autonomous vehicles, because I feel like there are other avenues where there's a lot of room for progress in vehicles. I'm interested in, like, autonomous driving. What happens in regards to that? How countries and engineers are going to deal with reducing congestion and pollution as the population of cities like London exponentially increases. But where I say alternatives, I'm definitely interested in, because it's actually funny when I was speaking to you before the podcast started recording. But remember, I was saying how the president of the RAES came to Hearts Uni, and he was talking about autonomous vehicles, and he was talking about how one of the biggest challenges that autonomous vehicles face is actual ethics, because the technology is there. The technology is there. Their cars can, like Teslas, for example, can drive themselves. Obviously, you've heard of unfortunate circumstances whereby technology's failed and someone's unfortunately lost their life. But But what the scenario that he gave us was it was the tunnel versus the baby experiment, whereby he spoke about, let's say for example you're driving a Tesla on a high speed road, a motorway, right? And obviously it's highly unlikely, but let's just say a baby or a deer suddenly crosses the road, and your car obviously has to make a judgment. That's not really a judgment because it's pre-programmed what the car would do, and the options are either crash into the object, obviously, whether it be a baby or animal, or essentially swerve the car out of the way, but that puts the lives of the occupants in danger. Who makes that decision? Do you see what I'm saying? So it'll be interesting to see how they navigate that. Well, something else came in my head, but I forgot. I'm trying to think. Yeah, it's gone for me now. But yeah.
It's fine, bro. I mean, I think to support what you said, like from your point, you're looking we'll start with your personal side as well, what you're looking forward to, but the reaping the rewards of all the effort you're putting in now, really making the best use of the time we have now, and then reaping the benefits of that at a later point. It's more or less about the journey of that, you've gone through and you've grinded, and you've got to this. You're going to get to that point where you've got your own house, you've got a car, and you're able to share the pleasures with those around you, the loved ones and all that. And you look back on it and you're really, really proud.
Yeah, you look back and you can see the journey you've gone as well. I mean, I can even do it now on a level as well. I look at, for example, when I went to my first college and I failed, and I thought that's the end of the world, because I was very focused on doing engineering. I didn't really have a backup plan, right? So it was like engineering or nothing. And it was like, these thoughts cross your mind, like, well, what do I do now? Like, is that it? What am I, just working at Tesco or something for the rest of my life? What do I do? And so it's really good and interesting to look at that now, 6 or 7 years ago, and compare that to where I am now. But then, as I said, it's also important to never get complacent and always, look at what's the next goal.
Exactly. Continuous improvement. Always get, once you accomplish one thing, you move on to the next, and then you build.
Exactly.
And then you build, you get better. And it's really I think, going back to your earlier example where you mentioned your passion about trains and high speed trains. Trains, when they're going really, really quickly, they've built up a lot of momentum, and trains are very, very hard to just stop abruptly. So if you think of the momentum, your ambitions, your desires, and obviously as you're continuously growing and improving, if you adopt that to a train moving at high speed, it's impossible for you to stop when you've got the determination, you've got the drive, and you're consistently putting yourself through the motions, and you're learning and you're getting better. It's next to impossible to stop. So kind of linking in that analogy with what you said. And then on the second part where you talked about technology, I agree with you. It's exciting to see where technology goes, with the adaptability and improvement of mobile phones and all that. Funny enough, if we look at it, my podcast is essentially my phone and earphones. That's all. I don't have a fancy studio where me and you can sit down and we're looking at each other and we're talking. We're doing it online through a website, and both of us can hear each other clearly, I hope. Though my voice is a bit crackly here and there, but the fact that the technology now has enabled me and you to have a conversation, even though we're in different parts of the country, and record this podcast is, it's amazing.
Yeah, definitely, man. It is crazy. And it would just be interesting to see, because as I said, these advancements that I'm talking to you about, that I was talking to you about, have happened in the last 15 years or so. So it'll be interesting to just to see, what the future holds, what the next quarter century, holds in regards to technology. I think what I hope to see an advancement in is just in studies relating biology. I'd love to see how I think it's called biotech, how technology can assist biology in regards to just making people's quality of lives better. That reproduction of organs, that'd be interesting to see. There's obviously studies going into reproducing, different parts of the human body. It'd be interesting to see if they can actually get that to a point whereby they can reproduce healthy organs, whereby you don't have to be on a waiting list waiting for a heart or a kidney. You can literally just give someone your cells, and in a few months' time you've got a replica of your own heart or kidney. That would be
I think I've had this discussion before with somebody else, and I think it was like my uncle, and I was talking. I think this one about the reproduction of organs and the organs that get reproduced, right? I think whether they're 3D printed or not, but they are essentially free from disease. So the organs as you get as a replacement won't be able to contract disease. Obviously, I'm speaking about that from my opinion. Please don't get. I hope I don't get patented for this or something like that. But obviously, that's from my perspective. I think as well. When you mentioned the example about a Tesla car and obviously autonomous vehicles and all that, I remember watching a safety video that Tesla released on the automatic braking system that it's incorporated. So you could be driving a certain speed, and then obviously the car's got a sensor. So if it spots something in front of it that's not moving and it identifies it as a person, it will slow down and come to a stop just before that person. So it's quite.
But obviously, if a person runs, and let's say there's a person on a pavement, let's say somebody who's looking to, I don't know, commit suicide or something, and they purposely run in front of your car, the car's not going. It doesn't matter how quick, because obviously, when there's stopping time, the time it takes for a car to stop, you have to consider not only the thinking time for the person to react, but also obviously the time it takes for the actual brakes to slow down the car, right? So let's say the car can react instantaneously, it still might not be quick enough. Do you see what I'm saying? To stop in time.
Yeah, of course the physics is not implorable in situations like that where somebody deliberately throws themselves. Obviously, I hope nobody ever does that. Yeah,
and there's also many occasions whereby the autonomous system in Teslas, for example, has failed. So it would just be interesting to see. Obviously another thing like following on as well would just be the hopefully we find a cure for cancer. I guess that's obviously dementia. But I guess even go. Yeah, exactly. But even going back to when we were speaking about reproducing organs, there's ethical like stipulations as well that may like halt the progress of that, because obviously if the potential for a machine that can 3D print organs on the black market is ridiculous, because it's like, okay, well, if you can reproduce a finger, or maybe not a finger, if you can reproduce a heart or a leg, some people might feel like, well, you're kind of you're undoing God's work. Some people, like, if some people get cancer or something, they feel it's God's way. God's got a better purpose for me, and it's almost like you're undoing God's work. And it's like, I'm not saying that they'll get to a point where you can reproduce a brain, because I feel like that's physically impossible.
But I do get what you're saying, because it feels like in some instances it feels like you're cheating death.
Yeah,
I feel like on the aspect of like it being available on the black market, with every good thing, right? somebody's gonna come onto it and abuse it and take a piss of take.
Well, yeah. And who decides who gets a new organ and who doesn't? Who has to play the role of God and almost commit blasphemy? Like who decides that? I personally wouldn't want a job where I decide who gets an organ and who doesn't. Like I don't want that pressure.
Yeah, it's just I can't live with that.
Yeah, exactly. I can't do that, man.
Fair enough, bro. All right. So after we've sidetracked and we've had a beautiful conversation on the side, and I agree with what you're saying. There's obviously with ethical standards and all that. It's going to be interesting how everything gets incorporated and how the laws in the world will work going forward. With the advancement of technology and all that. So moving on to the next question. Obviously, this question will focus on how you get things done, man. The grind aspect of how you take on stuff. But can you tell our listeners what helps you stay focused and productive when you're completing activities?
I think it's just always having an eye on the bigger picture. What the end goal is. Obviously everyone faces difficulties. I think it's just having an eye on the bigger picture. And I think it's also having experience, academically specifically, having experienced difficult just difficulties, whether it be as I said, not doing as well as I would have liked in my GCSEs, or like failing my first year at college. That sense of disappointment that I felt, it's a feeling that I never want to ever feel again. So I always have like an eye on that. Whenever you're having a difficult day and you're like, you just sometimes have those days where you're like, not today, man. Let me just take my eye off the ball a bit. I just have to remind myself how I felt then when I felt disappointment, and how I pledged to myself that I wouldn't want to feel that again when I'm in a situation whereby I can control what I have. I have a strong degree of control in regards to the outcome of a situation. That I'm just very, very critical of that. Essentially, that's how I combat that.
Awesome, man. And I like the fact that you've got obviously you've mentally ingrained it in yourself that I don't want to go through the same feeling of disappointment.
Disappointment.
And,
Yeah.
and you want to make sure that even if something was to go wrong, you immediately on the bounce, you're already looking to bounce back and already looking to learn from your mistakes and learn from the actual that what happened in that scenario and build from that going forward. So that's really, really good, bro. That's really, really good. That's some tenacious stuff right there, bro. That's one of the values of P.O.T.N that you've encompassed very, very well. So that's brilliant. So in that as well, in situations where things may get stressful, what would you say you do that helps you de-stress?
So I like exercising helps. I always like to have something to look forward to in it. So usually I would book a holiday or something. So for me, having a holiday to look forward to is just something, because it's like everyone has bad days, but it's like, okay, yeah, I'm having a bad day, but I know a good day is due soon because I'm going here or I'm doing this. It doesn't have to be a holiday. I just like to set myself mini targets that I like having. So for example, obviously last week was my birthday, so it was like I had that to look forward to. So that's a positive day. Before that I went Brighton with my family, so that's like a positive day. So if I was ever like having a bad day, I'd have that to look forward to. I don't know. It could just be like small stuff, man. It doesn't have to be anything big. I just set myself these little goals or these little things to look forward to. So I just like I've always got something to counter any negative, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, and I think you've actually presented it in a fantastic way. The fact that as much as the people have off days, people have good days as well. So it's also about looking forward to going through. Obviously, I don't think anyone would look forward to going through bad days. Even though they will happen sometimes, but also looking forward to good moments as well and good days. So looking at it from that aspect, would you really determine whether you've had a bad day or not if you've always had a positive outlook or an optimistic outlook on the day you have going into a day, like let's say tomorrow, or even going for a holiday or anything like that? It's probably going to be that feeling of it feeling like a bad day it won't feel as impactful as it would have it felt before.
Oh yeah, I'd say so, man. I just think, always, yeah, exactly. It's almost like if you can imagine, like there being a spectrum of like how you feel, and let's just say, you have -10, which is you're feeling really negative, and then there's +10 where you're feeling really, really, really positive. And let's just say, for example, you wake up, I don't know, something's happened, and you're a -7, and you have, let's just say you have these loads of little goals that you set yourself. And it could be really, really minuscule stuff. But let's just say each of those goals is like a one, a +1. So you've gone from being a -7, done one positive thing, you're now -6. Keep on doing that, and you move up the scale. That's why I look at it, and also I find it's good to always, just look at what you have around you, and just understand that, okay, yeah, things might be difficult. You might be having a bad day, but there's always someone out there who's experiencing worse. You know what I mean? I might be struggling, but I always know, that if I need food, I can go and get food. Do you see what I'm saying? And I think people, obviously it's relative, isn't it? Because you live in a life, and human nature means that you always want more and whatnot. So, but I think sometimes you just have to take some steps back to actually appreciate that those things that we often consider trivial aren't so trivial for others.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, because we're looking at it, we're looking at it, and from that angle, and we're looking at, there's going to be good situations, there's going to be bad, but we're focusing on our personal situations, and we're being grateful for the position we're in as well, and the things we have, and what we can do to better ourselves, and also support the people who may be having more struggles than the norm, like another person would have. So how can we always be in a constant process of making sure that we're doing the best we can, we're improving ourselves, and then we're also giving back and helping those who are not in the best position that they could be.
Exactly. And I think also showing others that who's come from similar backgrounds, as ourselves, that what we've achieved is doable. Because you might just think, like as I said, it's always important to look at things in retrospect, because you could, let's say in 10 years time, you might look at the hardships that you're going through now as a person and how you've overcome them, and then you might be a bit numb to actually understanding just actually how far you've come. You might not actually acknowledge that, but then it might take you to have a conversation with somebody who's going through what you went through, then to you to then speak to them and talk about how you got from where you was then to where you are now, to then realize, actually I have done quite a lot. So it's important, I think, to just give back in that sense, to just understand that, like, I was where you were, and I'm here now, and this is how you can achieve similar things. As I said, I look, if somebody had said to me, I don't know, when I was 16, I could earn £100,000 a year, I'd be like, huh? Like that's not meant for someone like me. Do you see what I'm saying? But now I'm at the age now, I can see that actually it is something that's is possible, and I'm essentially in control of my destiny in regards to whether or not I can achieve that. Obviously, unless an apocalypse happens, that's not going to happen. But ultimately, it goes back to determination. So long as I continue this determined mindset that I have, there's no reason as to why I won't achieve that.
Absolutely, bro. And I love that. And I love that about you, man. You've essentially you've got the values of P.O.T.N right there, man. You're positive, you're optimistic. Obviously, you're tenacious and you're ready to work hard, but you're also ready to keep yourself grounded as well whilst you're doing those things and getting better. So I think the next question, you're gonna love this question because I think it's a question you've been dying to answer all throughout this podcast episode. But what would you say are your strongest qualities, and which one of these would you like to teach somebody who's interested in learning from you?
Yeah, I think this question has been a strong theme throughout everything. I would say it's just determination. Determination. I think that's the most important thing, because obviously, as I've mentioned, other values in regards to obviously, having a willingness to learn, wanting to give back to others. We also spoke about just also being not being shy to admit when you're wrong, but you can't do none of that, or none of that is as valuable if you don't have determination.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's almost like if you have all of those other things, but you don't have the determination. It's like almost having another saying, all the gear, no idea. It's you can fall into that. So I feel the biggest thing is just being determined, and I feel like, and I look at people, even like who I know on a personal level, but also on a wider level, and you look at people and you look at how, pardon me, why perhaps they haven't achieved what they wanted to, or they're not where they'd like to be in life, whether that be, doesn't have to be financially, it could be in any aspect. I feel a lot of people lose sight because of determination. Yeah, if you look at, I'm not saying to look at the most successful people in the world, because you're not going to become a Jeff Bezos or a Mike Zuckerberg or a what's his name from Facebook, Bill Gates. Chances are you're not going to become that kind of person. But there's no reason as to why you can't be successful. And I feel like if you look at those in life who are successful, the one common denominator is that they're determined. That's it. It doesn't matter that I got 100 no's. I've got one yes. That's all I need, and that's what it is, man.
Yeah, exactly, bro. Exactly, that's what you need to drive forward. And that's what you need to drive forward, exactly, bro. And I like how you've alluded to that, and you've given an example. You've built it into your answer. It's the mindset, and obviously not giving up and staying focused and committed to what you want to achieve. Because I was going to say, obviously, we're not going to end up like Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates. But we're going to become successful in our own special way. So we'll be the billionaires in our lives, to our standards that we believe in. So, and that's when you're happy at your happiest point as well. So with that, bro, what would you say? So going forward, is there anything new you're looking to learn, or something you feel that you're missing that you want to pick up as a skill?
Yeah, I would say if I could, I'd love to learn another language. Not because, I mean, obviously, having another language would be hugely beneficial. Let's say, for example, I wanted to learn Mandarin. It's hugely beneficial because it just opens you up to another realm of possibilities in every aspect. But also because I just think it would be cool for somebody who's who looks like me, being able to speak Mandarin. So I'd like to learn another language. It doesn't have to be Mandarin. Just know another language fluently. I'd always like to be able to say that I know 2 languages fluently, right? And not one of them be a language that I was brought up around, but actually one that I actually taught myself. So I'd love to do that. I'd also love to look into some sort of programming language as well, because I feel like it can complement the work I do now and open more doors to myself. career wise. The only thing is though, as I know, I don't I don't know if, whilst I know it can be beneficial, I don't know if it's something that I'd want to do. But I guess it's a case of whereby you have to do it first to know whether or not it's something you want to do long term. So yeah.
Exactly. You got to try. You got to try it out and see if it's the right fit as well. And I think on what you said about learning a new language, that's very very good because I think for me, man, a bit of ambitious of me to say, but like I'd like to learn. I think at least 3 or 4 languages.
Yeah,
Um,
sick, man. And there's no reason as to why you can't.
Yeah, exactly. There's no reason, and the beauty about it is we're now by doing these things, we're now challenging the stereotype because you know how people have the stereotype like, oh, you have to be from a certain place to speak Mandarin, but
Yeah,
you're challenging that, and you're saying,
exactly.
I'm different, I'm standing out, I'm Jourdan, and I've learned Mandarin. I'm not from wait before I mess this up. Mandarin is spoken where I think it's spoken in Malaysia about the East, the Asian countries, Asia, Vietnam. Trying to think, what else is it spoken?
I can Google it. So obviously, predominantly China, Singapore, and Taiwan. I think that's it.
Yeah, so we're challenging that the
Yeah,
stereotype that we're in Europe, but we can also learn languages that can be
yeah,
beneficial, and we can essentially start networking with people in those countries like Singapore, China, Japan, etc.,
yeah.
etc. So that opens up more doors, and that's very, very brilliant. So
And also, I think it plays into breaking down stereotypes as well.
yeah,
Which is essentially what you were saying. I'd always love to, let's just say, for example, I don't know, I'm speaking to someone who's Chinese, and it doesn't even have to be that they're insulting you. It could just be they're saying something, thinking that you don't understand, and then you just suddenly respond to them in their native language, and it's just the shock in their face. That'd just be cool.
that'd be hilarious.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, man. So in closing, bro, what inspiring words would you like to tell our listeners who are looking to improve themselves?
Yeah, I would just say, leading on to what I said before, just could find something that you love doing, something that you think can work for you long term. Work towards becoming better and knowing more about that. Try to surround yourself with people who are like minded. If you can, possibly just try to find a mentor. It doesn't have to be in anything in particular, but just somebody who's at a higher point in life, who can provide you with wisdom and assistance, and just most importantly, just stay determined. Stay determined. You'd have to be unfortunate. You'd have to be very, very unfortunate to be a very determined person who keeps on going no matter what, and never ever achieve any sort of success. It's I'd go as much as say it's impossible.
Yeah, those are some powerful words, man. And
So,
as once you're
yeah, man.
determined, even if you take some L's along the way, you become better, and then obviously those L's would then turn into not the particular L's, but you start winning. You win small battles, and then you start winning bigger battles, and you get better and better.
Else, what is it? Else for love. It can't be else for lost, bro. Lost isn't in my vocabulary, bro.
Ah, love that.
Must be else for love. We don't lose. We don't lose. We learn.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely, and I'll definitely take that on going forward, bro. And it's been fantastic having you on the show.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you for having me.
On that note, we've now reached the end of another fantastic episode of the P.O.T.N podcast. Thank you all for listening in and reaching the end of the show. I'd just like to say thank you again to my fantastic guest, Jourdan, for coming on. Jourdan, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, man. Have a nice evening.
Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Please leave a like, a review, and a comment. It helps the algorithm make my podcast easier to find for you current listeners and for new listeners as well. Thank you all for listening again. Till next time, be well and take care.
I'm always MIA on the down low, testing all my skills, trying to outgrow. They never seen a brother on a mic spits a code that's so pitiful. Recognize healing is against the rule, and I'm here. I had to disappear with all of my peers. I had to recognize all of my fears, so I could come back and keep being real. Remember that I don't wanna be so fearful. I tell you that the world's so stressful. I don't wanna waste the potential, because my dreams are special. I just wanna be successful. They say this life's on a rental. I write that line with my pencil, cause I might decline with a mental.
Could it be something that you've heard? Hey! I couldn't shake it off the reverb. My intention was to get to you first, but you're moving fast through the universe.
Levitate, elevate, demonstrate, cut the chase, don't be late, don't debate, let it be, follow me. Levitate, elevate, demonstrate, cut the chase, don't be late, don't debate, let it be, follow me, 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 follow me. I got these great shades for great days.
Music by Justin Vinyls.